Correct.
Beauties. Yeah, 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 yeah. What's going on? It's another episode of the Music Guy podcast. My name's Al Rowe. I'm a music guy. I play guitar, I sing, I write songs, I make records. My co-host... Oh, actually, before I introduce my co-host, look at this new room we're in. I'm in.
Yeah.
I moved to the Beaches, broadcasting to you from the east end of the city of Toronto in the Beaches. It's great here. Everybody should come on live out here in the East End.
Nice places to eat and
Yeah, you walk. There's sand and stuff.
Also beaches, that too.
Yeah.
You move to the beaches in the bad season. You know, you gotta wait till the.
Well, I got a
summer
deal
to
on the rent.
Raises. Oh, this is true.
I'll be reaping
Now
those
is the time to
benefits
move
when it's warm.
places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 My co-host, music guy, guitarist, composer, backup singer, side person, Mr.
Collector of the CRB.
Collector of CRB. Hey, man, we're all doing what we got to do right now.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Michael Hebbs coming at you from Whitby, Ontario.
Hey.
Just recently laid down some sweet sound design stuff for a project that I'm working on. So thank you very much for doing that, sir.
It was really fun. Also, too, the thing that I had the most fun with was Will was like, "Oh, I want you to do some slide," and I couldn't really figure out any slide parts. So like, while I was doing slide, I had my amp really loud, and there was just a bunch of feedback. And I was like, "Oh, that sounds really cool." So that was really fun to do.
Nice. Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to dropping these into the mixes and
Seeing what you can do with them.
getting these songs to completion, if you know what I mean.
It's all about getting to completion.
So today we wanted to chat with you guys about something that we've sort of referenced a bunch on previous episodes in passing, but we haven't really dug into it. And this is the subscription model, the subscription business model, the scary subscription model, as I'm going to call it, because it freaks me out. I think it freaks a lot of people out.
Yes. It's all the rage. Every company's trying to switch to goddamn, not prescriptions, subscriptions.
Yeah, it feels like you could subscribe to anything. I've been reading some articles, and I'll share some of them in the show notes. There's one where you could subscribe to your hardwood floor.
What?
Yeah, like you could pay for it monthly and get it serviced and whatever else. So, this is really the new norm in terms of, businesses really from anything to, something like a gym membership, which is pretty standard, all the way to like the Dollar Shave Club, if people have heard of that.
The alternative to the gym too would be actually buying your own gear.
Right. Buying your own workout gear.
Been a gym guy for years.
Yeah.
And he bought, weights, and it is a lot more upfront. But if you spend $700 up front, if you go to the gym for the rest of your life, like that's a pretty good investment.
Exactly. Right. So It's all sort of weighing it, but this is sort of the business model of now and going forward. And I think as consumers, we should expect to see, many more subscription models in all of the businesses and all of the facets that we're enjoying. Are you hearing crackling coming out of my microphone? Or is that just me?
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. So my interface has been kind of weird lately. Okay, so let's start it off by just sort of defining. I think everybody sort of understands what the subscription model is, but let's sort of just break it down and talk a little bit about sort of why it exists and what the benefits are to the consumer and to the companies that are offering these services. So the subscription service, generally you're paying for something monthly It's usually the same amount of money every month. Sometimes you'll get a discount. Oftentimes you'll get a discount if you pay for a year up front. And some services allow you to pause your subscription and restart it at your convenience. Some are super easy to cancel. Some are super difficult to cancel. If any of you have tried to get out of your gym membership, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So that's sort of generally what it is. And the company is offering you either like access to something. So in the case of like a gym membership, you get to go to the gym, use all their equipment. Or maybe they're delivering something to you on a monthly basis, like some kind of a grocery thing, or like one of those food box subscriptions, or like Dollar Shave Club, you get razors every month.
Yeah.
So that sort of a thing. Or in the case of what we're going to be talking about today, software subscription, which can sort of range from you're getting, continuous updates to the software you're buying, or you're getting tech support, or you're getting new add-ons, new pieces of software as they're added, or in some cases you're just getting everything that company makes at all times, or you're getting access to like a growing library of different sounds and stuff like that that's available. Musically speaking. So that's sort of what the subscription model is. Now, I've checked out a couple of articles. I'm not an expert, but I did want to do some diving on sort of how are people talking about this in the business world, and what are they sort of theorizing about and trying to figure out, how this is working. Why are all the businesses switching to this? So I've linked to a couple of articles. There's one on Forbes, and there's one on the Stanford School of Business website about subscription models. So I'll link to those in the show notes. So basically, there's 4 sort of main pillars of the subscription model. I'll call them benefits to the customer. This is what attracts people to pay for subscription model stuff, and this is what businesses are trying to offer you. So number 1 is price. And so in a lot of cases, it's at least going to be presented to you as a more cost-effective option than flat out purchasing. And in some cases it is, and depending on how you're using the service, it is, right? So if you have a Costco membership, which a lot of people probably do, you're paying, I don't know how much, like $30 a year, $80 a year, it depends on what access you're trying to get. But you pay that $80 a year. And now anytime you go to Costco, you're buying groceries, clothing, appliances for, the originally it was like the price that the resellers pay, right? Like businesses would have Costco memberships before it was open to the public. And that's how they would get, 100 cases of water, and then they would sell those at their convenience store for $1 each, and like they were getting that bulk price, right? So now you get to be the beneficiary of that. So if you go to Costco enough times, it quickly becomes worth it for you to spend that $80 a year. Number 2 is convenience. So there's a subscription that Katie and I use for dog food, where they deliver dog food every couple months or every 6 weeks or whatever. There's a cycle where they deliver a big bag of dog food to the house. We don't have to go out and get it. It's higher quality food. So there's a convenience factor there. We're never in a situation where we're like, oh crap, we have no dog food and we got to go to work, and what's the dog going to eat today? We don't have to worry about that. So maybe we're spending slightly more. I don't actually know how much it is, but maybe it's slightly more than going to the store and getting it yourself. But you're saving that time, you're saving that gas money, you're saving whatever, and you're not in that headache situation of I don't have dog food. So a lot of people doing this with groceries now. Or like think about something like, I don't know, Netflix, probably the business that's grown the most outside of the pharmaceutical companies.
The one that sparked this whole subscription thing.
For sure, right? The convenience of being able to turn on your TV and watch whatever you want on demand. That was like a cable thing the cable companies were kind of offering. but not really. You're subscribing to cable and you're kind of watching whatever's on, and that's a bummer, right? Like nobody wants to flip channels. It's like you open up Netflix and you're like, I want to watch this thing right now. So convenience, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't need to reiterate this anymore.
Netflix.
Yeah. You guys heard of this thing? Netflix. It's new. Okay, so those two are pretty obvious. Number 3, this is where it starts to get a little bit more like big brain marketing sort of thing. Number 3 is personalization. So this is where, as a consumer or a customer, you can go in and choose what things you want and what things you don't want, and sort of cater the experience or the product to yourself and your needs. So, for example, if I have a good food subscription with a food box suppliers, right, I can choose the meals that suit my diet or my budget or whatever. Yeah, if I have dietary restrictions, or if I just have preferences, like I don't really like eating pork, so I'm not going to choose the meals that have pork. You know what I mean?
Doritos in the food boxes.
What did you say?
Do you think they include Doritos in the food boxes?
Sadly, no. Yeah. So I can't fully personalize it, right?
Producer food boxes.
Yeah. Or if we're thinking about like maybe like an audio software world, like in a plugin subscription, can I choose the plugins I actually want, or am I going to get a huge amount of stuff I'm never going to use? Right.
Yeah.
And therefore, is it worth it for me? So like if I, if I'm looking at plugins, I want to be able to pick and choose, and not all of them offer that. So it's something to look for. Now, the fourth one is curation, which is a little bit different from personalization. And this is where the service is actually sort of using what they know about you and what they learn about you to give you more of what you want and suggest more of what you want. So like this is kind of like when you turn on Netflix, it's like titles recommended for you, right?
Yeah, they do that with wine. There's a wine company that does that.
That's a great example.
You say which one you like.
Yeah.
And they're like, these you would like, which is cool.
Right. So people would, that's a great example, actually. Yeah. People will pay for that because they want new experiences, but they want new experiences that they're going to enjoy. Right.
Yeah.
So like if you're going to a wine tasting, you're driving to Niagara and you end up at all these ice wineries, it's like, I don't like ice wine, so I'm not going to enjoy that. Right.
Sure.
But like, I do like wine. And so if I'm, if they can send me
some... It's like having a buddy who knows your tastes really well. It's like, oh, you like this show. It's like, oh, that's awesome.
Exactly.
I don't have to search for shows I like. I want somebody to tell me what I like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or suggest, gently suggest.
Yeah. There we go.
But yeah, so the personalization, curation, very similar. The idea is you're getting more of what you need or what you want, less of what you don't want, right? So so these are sort of the 4 main sort of selling points that I've found for the subscription service. So if you're not saving money, if it's not more convenient for you, if it's not giving you a more personalized experience, which is something that you feel like you want to pay more money for, then you're probably not. This is probably not something you should be subscribing to. Now, of course, there's benefits for the company, and the reason why so many companies are switching to this service, and obviously or model, I should say. Obviously, the big one is guaranteed revenue, right? If you can sign somebody up to a year of $20 a month for your service, and they realize they don't like it halfway through, you're still getting that full year of subscription from them, right?
I just signed up to it. I actually just literally yesterday signed up to a subscription. The monthly cost is $30 a month, and the yearly cost is $12 a month.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, fuck, man. Like I really want to sign up for yearly, but I don't think I'm gonna need it for that long.
Right. And people forget that they have subscriptions, right? Like how many times have you forgotten? It's happened to me a bunch. I'll see a payment come out of my credit card, I'll be like, I still have that? I haven't used that in 2 months. I thought I canceled that, but I forgot to or something. So there's a...
Is it a subscription to boner pills?
Yeah. Pornhub Premium. No. Anyways, there's a lot of benefit there to the companies. So obviously we're aware of that. We want to try to sort of minimize how much, we're losing as a result. But, the companies also have to make money. Otherwise, we don't get the services that they provide us. So it's
the reason they're switching to this.
It's a yin and a yang, Yeah. So the second one I found kind of interesting. This is in I think it was in the Forbes article that I was reading. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. So let's say you have a Costco subscription for $80 a year. You're feeling the need, if you are a guilty feeling person like I am. It's like, I need to go there. I need to make use of this subscription. Yes. So you'll actually go to that store more often than you would if you weren't subscribed. And you know how it is. You get into a place like that and you're like, oh man, well, I'm already buying, $100 worth of toilet paper. I might as well get, 3 liters of orange juice while I'm at it.
Stock up on some Kirkland brand jeans.
Exactly. So you end up spending more money. And I've done this numerous times on like a Black Friday sale. If I'm buying plugins, it's like, all right, I'm going to get this compressor because it's $19.99. It's down for $300. I gotta get this while I have the chance. It's like, oh, I'm already here. I'm already spending $20. I might as well grab this. Or you're on Amazon. You're like, I'm already paying for shipping. I might as well get this, and this as well. Or maybe if I get this much, I won't have to pay for shipping. So there's all these sort of factors where companies try to pull you in to spend more money. And so just something to look out for. But those are the two big reasons why the subscription model works so well for the businesses. So
I'm already getting boner pills. I might as well, get a sports car.
There you go. Exactly. So that's sort of the overview of what the subscription model is and how it works. Now, the main thing I wanted to focus on in this particular episode was audio software. There's a big movement from a lot of the companies from pay for our license, get your iLok, download the license. Now you have our software. You get to use it forever. Versus a lot of companies changing to, well, just give us $20 a month and you can have all of this software, or you can have everything we ever make, or you can have free updates, or you can have good tech support, or whatever the sort of draw is. They want to get our money every month instead of only when we feel compelled to buy their product. So you can see how that is already sort of slanted in the company's favor, and potentially in a way. But I wanted to look into how does this actually break down. So I've done some number crunching to the best of my remembrance of how much money I've spent on audio software, and it was a scary amount for me to see, anyways. But I mean, I do use this stuff to do my work and make a living, so it is worth it. But it's sort of scary to go back and add all this stuff up.
Buy anything to collect CRB, baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, actually, you did have.
I'm going to crunch the numbers really quickly as well, too.
Okay.
There we go.
Crunched.
I crunched it.
Yeah.
Did you hear him?
No, because I think Discord muted it for me.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I just hit the keys a bunch.
So, anyways, this is the best of my ability to remember. So the main one for me, Pro Tools 12. I bought Pro Tools 10, I think, even long before. That's probably I don't know, I'm going to say 8 years ago. I think I paid about $800 for it.
Same.
Yeah. And then I upgraded to 12. There was sort of a last chance upgrade to 12 before we switched to subscription model or something. I remember this happening a few years ago.
I tried to get Pro Tools 12. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
And they don't sell it anymore. It's subscription only.
So I went ahead and did buy that upgrade as well. So I think altogether I spent about $1,000 on Pro Tools software, which is a pretty staggering amount of money, but
not cheap.
I mean, that's what you got to do. So that was Pro Tools. In terms of other software, Melodyne, I bought years ago Melodyne 3 or something for $400, and then updated to Melodyne 5 Studio very recently, which is super sweet but super
Is that
expensive.
the one that you can tune chords?
You can tune notes inside of a chord, and you can tune multiple vocal tracks at the same time.
God.
Yeah, it's a pretty big change in terms of workflow. So it was worth it for me. I was working on a couple records where there was just a ton of background stacks, and it saved me a bunch of time. So I felt it was worth it. That was about $500. So I'm saying $800 on Melodyne I've spent over the years. In terms of Waves plugin stuff, I bought Waves Gold, I think, for about $200, I want to say, which is just a bundle of things. I got the Waves SSL and the API bundles for, I think they were on sale for about $400. This is US, by the way.
Oh,
And then, like, over the years, I've just bought other Waves plugins on Black Friday deals. Like, I got the
Yep.
CLA compressors. I got the Pultec one. I got the Fairchild. I don't know, different things like that. So I'm going to say another $200 there. I bought the Oxford Inflator for $200 a year or two ago. And so that's all plug-in stuff. That was a total $1,800 over my audio career. And then lastly was Complete 10, which is a virtual instruments thing, bundle, a ton of great virtual instruments. So that was...
I have Complete as well. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's dope.
It's
yeah.
like it's I when I bought it, it was $9,000 or $10,000 American worth of samples for that price.
Right.
You know, so instead of paying $9,000 because you're buying in a bundle, you were paying like 6 or 7, you know, which is
100. Yeah.
like, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I think I paid $600 for Complete 10 back in the day. And now they're on 13, so I don't know, I haven't upgraded
That's what
it. Still works.
when I first was trying to get into film scoring, I joined a forum called VI Control, and it's like where all the composers hang out, even like the really big ones. And I asked a bunch of them like, what should I get? What's the first thing I should get? I want to get my feet wet in like composing and mixing, and they said Complete, and that's why I bought it. But yeah, so that's cool. You have that too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in there, right? Like, it pretty much, I mean, says it right in the name. Like, it's got all the things you need to make most sounds. I think if you're like super serious about film scoring, there's some other stuff that's not in there. Or you might be looking at like East West has some really good orchestral, like the really, really high end orchestral sounds that the big film score guys are using are very expensive. Yeah.
String library, and it's just strings, not their complete thing. $800 a Flatus, not East West. But it sounds unreal. Like you barely tell the difference.
Right. Yeah.
And even the real thing in that. But yeah, so you can spend a lot of money on this shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's just what I've done. And to the best of I don't know if those are exactly the right prices, but that's about the ballpark. So
how much is that total in what you've paid? You've paid.
So total I've written down here is $3,400 US on audio
Baby.
software. Yeah.
Ooh, baby.
Which is kind of a staggering number, right? If you're talking to somebody about like how to get your studio started and like what stuff you're going to need, like that's not a cost that you really think about at all. Now, I mean, we'll talk about, and we have talked about how to get started for, far less than that. And we can talk about that.
Shop too. You know what I mean? Like, say for instance, if the agenda didn't exist, you have everything to take a record from. I'm writing, recording, like mixing, and you could master it, which like that's pretty powerful. Like because when we talked about the get your studio started thing, that was more like, yeah, you could mix and all that stuff, but there's the bare minimums. But you have like all of the stuff to really do a really good job. So for $3,400, that's not crazy.
No, but it's not nothing.
Yes, it is definitely not nothing.
So that's sort of roughly where we're at. Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I bought some like Slate drum samples. I bought some other virtual instrument stuff, but we'll leave it
Trigger?
I have Trigger, yeah. But I mean, we'll leave it at 600. I mean, Complete does have drum samples in it as well, so we'll say 600. Anyways, so let's just have a look at what offerings there are out there now in terms of subscriptions. Because keep in mind, I started doing this stuff, a handful of years ago before this was really the thing. So what's out there now? So let's look at DAW, Digital Audio Workstation. Pro Tools I'm going to bring up because that's the big one. I know there's a lot of other ones that are cheaper, but so Pro Tools, if you want to pay monthly for it, you're going to get obviously the software itself, whatever updates they make as the new versions come out, you're going to get those. I don't know if you get their tech support. I feel like you don't. I think they still charge for that, but
They're
you might.
pretty, stingy with that stuff.
Yeah. You get their complete plugin bundle, which I actually had a look at, and it's comprehensive. It's got everything in there. I don't know how good the plugins are,
You
but
didn't get that with Pro Tools when you bought it?
I don't think so. I got to look.
I have a ton of stuff.
Do you have like EQs and compressors and a bunch of stuff?
I have EQs and compressors, like air effects. I have a ton of air effects. Yeah.
Yeah. So this has got, EQs, compressors, a limiter. It's got a bus compressor. It's got a multi-band compressor. It's got all the air effects, delays, reverbs, distortions, all that stuff. And it's got a tape emulator I saw in there. So they got some good, functions. I don't know how they compare to the other plugin manufacturers because I haven't used them. But I saw some like Pultec emulators, some Universal Audio emulation, like the old 1176 and stuff. So, it looks like some pretty good value there, and you're getting that for $30 a month if you pay for it all at once. No, I'm sorry.
Yearly.
Yes, if you pay it. Let me restart that. If you sign up for a year, but you want to pay per month, it's $30 a month.
Oh, okay.
Okay, which comes out to about $360 a year. If you want to pay for the whole year up front, they give you a couple months for free, $300 a year. So that's the price I'm going to go with, $300 a year. If you want to just pay month to month and stop anytime, which actually might be a good option, because remember, you need to make this work for you. So if you're not using your studio all the time, it might actually be worth it to subscribe and pause when you're not using it. That's $35 a month. So it's not cheap. But so for $300 a year of Pro Tools, for what I paid for Pro Tools 12, which was $1,000, I could have had 3 years and a little bit of Pro Tools. Now I've been using Pro Tools for, like I said, probably 8 years. So,
yep.
I still stand by that. I think purchasing the software was more worth it for me than doing the month to month thing. Now it is interesting on their. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So yes, I think it's worth it too. But if you could go back in time, would you have bought a different software instead of Pro Tools?
No. No. If I was starting now, I might. Because there's so many cheaper options. Yeah.
This is true. Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
But no, at the time, I don't think I would have. Because I wanted to learn and use the one that everybody was using, and
yes,
at Humber, that's what we were learning on and stuff. So yeah. So no, I did want to use Pro Tools, and I knew I was paying a little bit more for it, but
someone
that was worth it.
Like who's listening now doesn't necessarily need to buy Pro Tools, and I almost would argue that they should.
It depends on what you're doing and yeah. I mean, what you want, right? Like, it is sort of still the quote unquote industry standard. There's just a lot of other players in the game. Ableton's getting really popular. Cubase is quite affordable. Reaper's super affordable. Logic, if you're a Mac user, a lot of people using. So
and he's using Reaper to fucking master records.
Yeah. Yeah,
so there's mastering engineer.
There's a lot of different options out there, and if you go back and listen to our home recording on a budget episode, which was way back in the day, we do a full breakdown of what's available and how much all that stuff costs. But so interestingly enough,
throwing things back
just for the sake of being fully complete here, Pro Tools does offer a perpetual license currently on their website. So I just looked at it today. For $600, you can get the full version of Pro Tools. You get all those plugins, I think, for a year. I don't know if you get to keep the plugins. That wasn't clear on the website. And you get 1 year of updates. I'm assuming you don't get to keep the plugins, but I actually don't know.
That's not bad. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. So again, if you just look at those costs, you know, it's $300 a year or $600 to just own the thing. I would just be buying the software.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't be dumb with your money. Buying
So
that shit.
pretty clearly, like, the cost effectiveness isn't there. If we go back to those pillars of subscription, you know, is the convenience there? Not really. You know, you either have the software or you don't.
Yep.
You know, is the personalization there? Not really. You're just getting the thing. I guess if you really love their plugins, then maybe it becomes worth it for you. But
Which
I think
no one sings the praises of that
I
stuff.
haven't.
No one's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
one's been like, wow, you got to check out the emulation of the 1176 that Avid does.
Yeah.
You know, that I've heard.
Yeah, and like, is it personalized or curated to you? No, you're just getting the same stuff as everybody else. So,
Yes.
So that one I would sort of say, just if you want the software, it's great. It's really great software. I use it every day, but just buy it, and then you don't owe people money. So that's Pro Tools. I'm sure the other DAWs have similar stuff, but it seems like buying a DAW is the way to go based on what I've seen, especially with ones like Reaper that offer the perpetual license for like not that much money at all.
Yep.
You should just be buying.
Ableton's a good one.
Ableton,
Apparently,
yeah.
Ableton's got a lot of the stuff that Pro Tools has in the way of editing now, and they're like Will was saying. I don't know much about Ableton, but they're trying to compete with Pro Tools, and they're much cheaper, and they have more features.
Right.
In some regards, like sound design.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. Check out Ableton, folks. Hashtag not sponsored.
Yeah, I love how organized this is, man. we should mention to the audience that part of our plan is we're gonna try to do different types of episodes. Like, this is more presentation, so you know, each month or every so often we're gonna prepare. You know, Al has prepared this presentation for me, and I'm just fucking ruining it. And the idea is it's more organized as opposed to just us talking, which before it was organized, but now he's got like a nice little presentation. He's got a spreadsheet. He's got like sort of a theme to it. I love it.
Yeah.
And then we'll do interviews still as well. But
exactly. Yeah, and we'll link to the spreadsheet as well in the show notes. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's cool to have an episode every now and again where it's like, you know, an organized show topic and with notes and do a little bit of research. Whereas, you know, when you have a guest on, you can sort of go back and forth and just sort of vibe out.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where it gets more interesting. I think the DAW is pretty clearly just buy it up front. That's sort of my recommendation there. I think what gets a little bit more interesting is with the plugins and the virtual instruments. So if we go back and look at how much money I've spent on plugins, it's about $1,800. So I'm going to work with that metric. This is all US, by the way. So a couple of plugin companies to look at here. The big one I think is Slate. I really was impressed with their they were calling it the Everything Bundle when it first came out. Now I think it's called the All Access Pass. And I tried it for a year, and I thought the plugins were sweet. And I really like how this model works, where if you're subscribed to it, you get access to everything they've ever made and everything they ever will make in terms of their plugins. This doesn't apply to the drum samples, which are very popular as well. I think that's a separate thing. They have a virtual microphone system. That's a different thing. But
Yep.
in terms of the plugins, and I mean, we're talking about EQs, compressors, limiters, enhancers, you know, like the tape emulation, console emulation, preamp stuff. They have all the stuff. So, you know, you're really not going to need to buy another plugin if you're subscribed to this, and that's sort of what they're advertising. And I would agree with that, unless we're getting into the one area that I haven't seen them branch into is like sound recovery or sound repair kind of stuff. Like
isotope stuff.
yeah, or like if you need to like do noise reduction, or if you need to get in there and maybe remove some clicks and pops, they don't really have a solution to that as far as I know at the moment. So you might end up spending money there if you end up in a spot where you need to remove some hum or something from a track and you're not able to do that. So, but in terms of, you know, analog modeling and stuff, they're right up there, I think, with anybody else. So monthly.
Were they the first people to do this?
I think so. They seem to be one of the people at the front.
First people I heard about.
Yeah. So monthly, you're looking at $25, which comes out to $300 a year, roughly, and that's where you can pause anytime. So if you're not mixing a record for the next 6 months, hit pause. Don't pay for it. Come back to it when you're ready. I think that's a super useful feature because if you're just demoing stuff, just use your stock plugins and or whatever, and come back to it. So I think that's a really useful feature. Annually, if you want to pay for it every year, we're looking at $150 a year, which comes out to less than $15 a month, which is really quite cheap.
Plugin.
Yeah, for like high quality plugins.
Update. You know, like if they get a new plugin next year and you're like, oh man, I really want that, you have it already. You know. And
they have been coming out with new plugins fairly regularly. So if you're valuing a new plugin at $50 to $100, and they come out with 2 plugins a year, then the value's kind of there, right?
That's great.
In terms of what you're paying. So now I did the math for how much I spent on my plugins total, which is $1,800. I could get 12 years of Slate plugins and whatever they release over the next decade for that much money. So kind of interesting there. And my feeling is, and I have said this to some people who are getting started, I would look to do that subscription sort of thing, because that's a pretty hard margin to beat. And I think that, like, yes, while the emulation, the modeling of the Slate stuff versus the Wave stuff versus the UAD stuff versus the Avid stuff is all different. None of them are exactly the same as the old units, nor would you want them to be, because the old units break all the time. You can achieve good sounds if you learn how to use your tools well and use your ears well and record good parts and make good arrangements and stuff. So
one thing that I was thinking about when I bought Complete, it was kind of it's a good problem to have, because I have so much stuff. It is kind of overwhelming to learn it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, say for instance, because you only had a few compressors, you'd be like, oh, I like this compressor for this and that, and you know what I mean? So maybe the downside is maybe just almost having too many options. But that's good.
That's true.
Decent downside.
Yeah, that is a good point. I don't know what the solution to that would be. I think it's like you said, it's a good problem to have. You can flip through different things. You can see what people are doing in videos. It's like I found it frustrating when I was learning. I mean, I'm still learning, but like when I was starting out learning, watching videos, and people are pulling up like SSL channel emulators, Neve 1073 emulator. Oh, I'm just gonna add some 10K with this plugin. It's like, well, if I do that with my Pro Tools 7-band EQ, it doesn't sound the same. So like, I want to use the thing that you're using. So I think it would be advantageous if you've got a swath of all the different old school channel strips. Even if the person you're watching is using Waves and you're using Slate, you can still be like, okay, well, I can see what they're doing with this thing, and this is going to be maybe not exactly the same, but it's going to be similar, right? They're modeled after the same piece of gear. So
that's a very good point.
I think I would find that nice. So, pretty good value there. Now, I went over the Wave site to see what they've got, and their selection is not as good. You can get Waves Platinum, which is a bundle that you can probably buy for, I don't know, like $800 or something. I'm not sure how much it is.
$800 not when it's not on sale?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because usually when those go on sale, it's like a quarter of the price.
Yeah, you know what? Don't quote me on that price. I have no idea. But it's monthly for $20, $20 a month. or $200 a year. So about $240 a year if you want to pay monthly, $200 if you want to pay annually. Now, the problem I had with this one is there's a lot of stuff in there that you don't get that I think is pretty important. Like the SSL stuff isn't in there. I use that a lot. The API stuff isn't in there. Again, some of that recovery, I don't think they have the denoiser in there. I don't think there's any. I should have mentioned with the Slate too. There's no pitch correction, I don't think, in either of these. So if you're looking for the Melodyne thing, I think you just have to buy it. But anyways,
one thing, I looked up the price. Waves Platinum was on sale for $200 on Black Friday.
Wow, yeah,
that's $200 American. So
$200 American. So for a year of just subscribing to it, you could. Now, as they add plugins to that bundle, you're going to get those. But I don't know. I don't really think it's worth it. But it is a sort of, a collection of plugins that you would need for that price. Now, again, I could get 9 years of Platinum use for the money that I've spent on, all the plugins I have up till now. Now, granted, I've been using these plugins for many years, not all of them for 8 or 9 years, but and they do different things. So Melodyne's included in that. So would I jump on the Platinum subscription? I don't think so. So
do better, Waves, or sponsor the show, and then we'll buy.
I think they make great products. I just wouldn't personally use that subscription. So
that's exactly it. Absolutely.
Those are two options. I'm not going to get into the UAD stuff because you have to buy their hardware in order to use the software, and there's a big upfront cost associated with that. But these are sort of two major options in terms of what you can subscribe to. Like I said, the Slate stuff is pretty attractive to me. The price is very low, and the fact that you get everything that they ever make is quite nice because you can at least, there's convenience, there's personalization there. You're going to get the things that you do want. You are paying for some stuff that you don't want, but the price is there. Sorry, what'd you say?
As you said, it's going to be a complete picture. You're going to get the SSL modeling and all that stuff, as opposed to Waves. It's like, you're getting some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not enough for me.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. For that price, it doesn't seem worth it. So I think in the world of plugins, subscriptions might be the way to go.
As opposed to DAWs.
As opposed to buying them outright. And DAWs, I think you just buy them. So definitely something to look for there. Now, if we get into the world of virtual instruments, this is like a world I'm not super well versed in, but there are a couple of cool things I wanted to point out. The first one is this service called Splice. I think Will's on Splice. It. Do you have it? Are you on this?
I've had it for a month or two. Yeah. It's great.
So basically my understanding of this is you pay $8 a month and you get access to this like infinitely large library of samples and synth presets. Are there plugins and stuff as well? That's kind of an extra cost.
Not when I was doing it. It was there. I think there are plugins now, but it's samples.
That's an extra thing you have to buy. But
big problems is the same thing I was saying before, though. There's so many options. It can be a little bit daunting to be like, I want a sample, but where the fuck do I start?
You can sort of search. There's search parameters you can use and filters, right?
Yes.
But the beauty of it is that you're not paying for like a sample pack where you're going to use one keyboard sound from it or one drum kit from the samples, and you've got 20 other kits you're never going to use, and you spend $100 on it.
Yep.
This is like, I want this exact sound. I found it. Okay, great. I'm going to download it, and whatever you do download through the service, you get to keep it. So even once you've canceled your subscription to them, whatever you use, now they cap you. I think it's at 100 downloads per year is what I read somewhere. It wasn't clear to me how that worked, but they do cap you on what you can download, I'm pretty sure.
You can't just download the whole library.
Yeah, you can't just take their entire catalog. But whatever you have taken, you get to keep. When your subscription ends, they say it's no hassle canceling, whatever. So it turns out to be about $100 a year. And for what I spent on Complete, I could get this for 6 years and keep everything. So that's kind of attractive. If they do have, really great synth presets for like a program like Massive or something, which ironically comes in Complete, so you have to buy it anyways. But like, maybe that would be comprehensive enough that I wouldn't need all the virtual instruments I've purchased through Complete. I'm not sure. Like, can they do a piano sound as well as, and
strings
and stuff? Like,
not that you'll need strings unless you're doing like film score, but like stuff like that. It is hard. That is hard.
But if you can grab, a go-to piano sound from somewhere, maybe you buy it, whatever, and then most of your work is like synth based.
Does Splice do loops? I can't remember.
I think they do. Yeah, they do loops and sample packs as well. I heard an Aaron Sterling drum sample pack. I just demoed it as I was on the website. Yeah. So
Aaron Sterling is like your favorite.
I think if you're not, he's Rich's favorite more than mine, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
You're all slowly just becoming one person.
Yes, that's right. The hive mind is at work.
This Splice kind of is in contrast to Output Arcade.
Yeah,
which I had.
So tell us about how that one works.
Yeah. So Output Arcade, you actually don't own anything, which is interesting that Splice does that. So with Output Arcade, you I think Will's approaching me from behind. No, he's not. Good. With Output Arcade, it's loops. It's not really samples from what I found.
Okay.
And they have their own sort of plugin. It's a part of Pro Tools. You open it up, they set it up on a keyboard, and then you can trigger all the loops. And they give you they make it like Netflix. They'll have a sort of series that's meant to replace hi-hats. So they'll have a series of hi-hat loops, or they'll have like an analog synth series. And the thing that I found this the most useful for is like almost idea generation. Like if I'm doing something for a commercial. In fact, when I was doing that thing for the Ontario Health, it was accompanied through Ontario Health. To get some ideas, I kind of started with that. It's like, I kind of want something in this mood, listen to a few loops, and then it gives me a clearer idea. And I used a few of the loops. So it is pretty cool in terms of inspiration. But yeah, like you don't own anything,
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool that you can just sign up, get some inspiration,
Right.
It'd be great for songwriters. You know what I mean? If you are a songwriter and you're co-writing with people, you bring them in and they're like, I want something like this. You can pull up loops of like real instruments and then some really almost like weird, like airy loops that kind of would just fit anywhere. But you can also pull up very specific, like this is a chord progression, which is cool.
That's sweet. Yeah. And only $10 a month is what I saw.
Yep.
So $150 a year or something. No, sorry, that'd be $120 a year. And again, like this is where, the personalization is such a big part of this, right? Because if they have the stuff that you need, then you don't need to spend $600 or more on the complete bundle with all these instruments you're never going to use. If you can find the exact synth sounds you want, or whatever, or loops. So it really depends on.
You just need a rough drum loop to play over and write over. It's like, there you go.
Exactly. So it really depends on what kind of work you're doing and what your needs are. But I would say, like, if you're not doing film stuff, and your work is mostly synth based, this seems very worth it to me compared to paying for, the complete pack, which includes like, or some, horns and strings and stuff, which and honestly they're like just okay. The horns and strings in complete. It's got guitar emulation. If you're not a guitar player, you're never going to use that. It's got world instrument stuff. If you're not a film composer, you're likely not going to be using that stuff. So the synth on the synth end of things, it's got Massive, which is great, and it's got a ton of presets, and it's got some cool keyboard stuff going on, but like it's got some okay drum samples going on. Battery's pretty sweet, but that's all you get, right? And as music evolves and develops, and the sounds are constantly changing. What's popular, what's new, what's fresh. It's really hard to find synth patches and stuff that can compete with that from a sort of basic pack that you've purchased, right? Whereas if you have access to a huge library where people are making things, I think it would be easier to find more current sounding stuff. So
yeah,
I think these services are pretty sweet, and I'd be very interested in trying them out at some point. And then the last one that we wrote down here was East West Symphonic Cloud. Is that what it is? Composer Cloud? Composer Cloud,
yeah.
Sorry. So this is this is quite expensive. Annually, this is $600 a year. Now you get access to everything they make, right?
Yes.
Which is
maybe that's not right, but it's a lot. It's like $15,000 worth American of samples. And it's expanding constantly. Like orchestral samples are expensive too. Like the East West stuff is really good, and like I haven't been in these circles as much, but like I said earlier, there's this company named Deflatus, and their string samples are amazing. They're not like the absolute top of the line, but they're pretty up there. It's $800 for just strings, and that's not their complete library. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
so like this stuff can get really expensive.
Oh yeah, these guys have everything from strings to horns to like voices. They've somehow done like opera voices and choral
Choirs
voices and I mean, so this is
sound great.
This is like the cutting edge sort of film scoring side of things. So if you're in that world and you can justify spending the money, then it's up to you to decide if that's also sort of your world.
If you were trying to learn, like, because with composition, like, it's not always symphonic, right? But if, say, for instance, you're like, I'm trying to learn how to write for like orchestra and stuff like that, for like film trailers, and I want to be like the next John Williams and only use orchestra, $600 annually to have all of the orchestral samples and never like need to be like, oh shit, I don't have that. My big problem when I was composing film stuff was like, I don't have something for that. It's like, oh, I need like really, really, really deep like double bass stuff. I had like a cello and double bass combined patch, but they were combined. You couldn't separate them,
Right.
So with this, or like even like runs, like like a harp run, a gliss or whatever. I actually don't know the names because I'm a horrible composer. But that's the idea, right? Like, so it has all this stuff, which is appealing in that sense.
Right. So I mean, for me, what I do, like, this is not going to be worth it, right?
Yeah, same here.
So obviously think about that before you go ahead and pay $600 a year because you wanted to put strings on one song. It's like there's probably a better way to do that than to subscribe to this particular thing. But again, it just comes down to your needs, and this is not something I'm going to be looking into because I don't score films currently. But
there you go.
It's cool that it's cool that this stuff is available, because imagine you were a working pro doing film scores and you were making a couple of, even if you're just kind of like getting your feet under you and you maybe had one project a year, but it paid $1,000 or something.
Yep.
Like, the fact that this access exists for you is huge, because amassing a library, like you said, of these instruments would be thousands and thousands of dollars.
Essentially, you would have had to spend $15,000 to get what this has.
Right. So,
and, like, I don't know many people who can do that.
So this is a really great way to get off the ground as a new composer. Similarly with all these plugin things, as a new engineer, or new mixer, or whatever, it's like, cool, I can spend $150 this year. I've got one record. It's going to pay me a couple $100, but great, I have all the tools I need. Now I don't need to worry about, sinking a ton of money up front to get my studio going. So
Also, too, you could do it for a year and be like, I don't like it. I don't like being a mixer. I don't like being an engineer.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, because you can't really. So this is what we'll get into next here. Is like, what are the benefits of actually owning your software if you don't want to, do these monthly subscriptions? It's like, number one for me is I don't owe anybody any money at the end of the month. I love that feeling, right? Like, I do a better job of managing my own finances the fewer things I have coming out every month. I've already got rent and insurance and all these things that come out on a monthly basis.
The boner pills.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to be. I don't want all my money to be spoken for every month. I would much rather think about what I want to get, do some research, decide, okay, this is going to be worth it for me to buy because I know I'm going to use it. I can wait for it to go on sale on Black Friday or whatever and make that decision at that point. Now it's mine. I own it. I don't need, I don't have an account with, well, you always have an account with the company, but like, they're not drawing money from me every month. Personally, I just like that feeling, maybe because I'm an old curmudgeon-y guy, but that's one big thing. But there's a lot of downsides to owning software that I've sort of realized, even just going through the exercise of preparing for this show. But one of the big ones is you can't really sell it. Like, if you have a license to a software, a lot of them, if you read those EULAs, you're not allowed to sell it to people. Some of them do allow that. And like, I don't really know exactly how all that stuff works, but generally speaking, you don't buy software off other people, right? Like, once you've activated that product key, it's yours. It's bound to your iLock. Like, it's hard to transfer stuff around. I don't know. Maybe somebody could enlighten me on how to do that, but it's not really commonplace to resell.
You can't take advantage of the hardware thing that we were talking about, the other thing where it's like, I bought this. I'm trying to write beats now, and I bought a little like drum pad with velocity sensitive triggers, and I bought it cheap and used. And if I don't want to do that anymore, if I don't like it, or I can just flip it used for either the same I paid for or more. So I'm not really losing any money there. I'm just like tying it up somewhere. Whereas with software, you're spending that money. That money's gone. Yeah.
And it doesn't really get better with age either. Software requires updates as the years go by and you change to, the next version of Windows or the next version of OS X or whatever. Some of your software is not going to work anymore. And you're going to have to go back to that company and be like, oh, well, I need to get version 12 because my OS updated and now your stuff doesn't work. And so for a lot of us, we just never update our operating systems because we're afraid that our software is not going to work anymore.
I'm updating to Windows 10 in the next few weeks, and I'm very afraid.
It worked well for me. Knock on wood for you.
Okay.
It was actually really easy.
Podcast might be done in a few weeks because
side note,
might be over.
Side note, buy a new SSD and do a fresh install of Windows on that.
Look at this baby right here.
There you go. Oh, I got the same one.
Really?
Yep. It's working great.
Fuck yeah.
It's working great.
Dude.
And then just sort of slowly copy over and reinstall your stuff.
Did you get it on Black Friday?
No.
Oh,
no, because I needed to get Melodyne 5 and it only worked on Windows 10 and there was a time constraint.
That's why I'm updating to Windows 10 too.
Yeah.
I have Melodyne 5, but not essential. It's assistant.
Yeah.
I'm not fancy like you. I don't have a fucking editor. Son of a bitch.
So all these problems with software is like the old school gear. It just, you plug it in and it works. It holds its value. It appreciates in value. Outboard gear is super expensive right now. The classic pieces.
Software is useless a decade from now.
That's the thing.
Camel Crusher? Everybody uses Camel Crusher. It's like a distortion compression plugin. And it's free. And it's great. And I see tons of people still using it. But like, it's free. Whereas I bet you back in the day it cost a good chunk of coin.
Yeah.
Some guitar pedals are worth 10 times what they sold for. Especially I hear the old guys talking about hardware gear like Dave Pensato, and he's like, yeah, this is kind of stuff that I just bought off a friend for like $100, $200, and now it's it's worth like 10 times that.
Right.
If not more. I know of people. Well, we I don't know if we've talked about this, but people as a career, they used to go around to pawn shops and hawk shops buying, these Fender guitars that before the internet, the owners didn't really know anything about. And it's like, oh yeah, this is from the '60s. This is worth $30,000. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But they're
right,
selling
right.
it for five. So you can't do that with software.
Can't do that with
It's always
software.
gonna get better.
There is really no equity to be had there. So, if you're buying it to use it to do work, to
Yes.
hopefully make some money or for your enjoyment or whatever. But yeah, so you're going to need to get updates eventually. Now, all that being said, any software that I've purchased, like I said, I have been using it for close to a decade, it's 5, 6, 7, 8 years, depending on which piece of software we're talking about. I've done a couple of updates. Everything still works. I moved to Windows 10. A bunch of stuff is now like legacy, quote unquote. A bunch of my Wave stuff is legacy, so it's no longer supported, quote unquote, by the operating systems. But things still work, and you got to do some workarounds.
Yeah.
If you're subscribing, you never really have to worry about that because everything is continuously going to be updating and keeping fresh with your operating system and stuff like that. But you also run into problems where, like, if you're not on the latest operating system and your plugins update, they won't work anymore because they're too new for what you have. So there's a lot of balancing. But I think at the end of the day, being able to get updates and new versions of things is a good thing because, you don't. Eventually, you're going to run into your software just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. You see tutorials online, Pro Tools tutorials with guys who are using like Pro Tools like 6.
Yeah.
It's like from like 2 or 3 years ago. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to hold out though, you can. So it's really like, again, that comes back to convenience. It's like how much do you want to worry about? I mean, I stuck with Windows 7 for years because I knew there was a good chance a bunch of stuff wasn't going to work, but I couldn't get the new version of the Slate stuff because it didn't work with Windows 7. So it's like, you got to worry about that stuff. How much do you want to make that a priority? But so those are kind of the downsides to software ownership. There's no hard and fast answer here of this research I've done, but it's looks
less cut and dry than I thought it was.
Yeah, it looks to me
in that sense.
It looks to me like the DAW you want to buy, the plugins you may want to subscribe to, especially if you're starting out and you have nothing at the moment. I think that's definitely a great place to start because you can at least try things and see what you like. A lot of these subscriptions offer like the first couple months free too. So you can try stuff out and decide, okay, I really love this particular plugin. Maybe I'll buy that, and not subscribe. Or maybe I'll keep subscribing because I love how there's new stuff coming all the time. And the work that I'm doing is sort of paying for it. So it's worth it. That's a great option to have. The virtual instruments is a bit of a world that I'm not super learned in, but I think depending on your application, it might be better to just subscribe to a service like Splice if you're doing more electronic music, than to buy a pack. But if you're doing more film scoring stuff, maybe buying a pack's the better way to go. If there's like a few sounds that you're going to need, like a keyboard, like a piano, good piano sound, a good, organ sound, maybe, what have you, then, maybe buying a pack is the way to go. But sort of make sure that you're getting, I think the moral of all of this is make sure that you're getting the stuff that you actually need at the best price that you can afford, because there's no longer really a reason to pay for a ton of stuff that you're not going to use. We're sort of we're sort of beyond that in the greater sense, in like the business world and the consumer marketplace world. Like no matter what sort of area of the marketplace you're in. Is it audio? Is it groceries? Is it technology? Is it,
Yep.
books that you want to read? It's like you can get the thing that you want and not get the things that you don't want. So try your best to sort of find the service that's going to do that the best for you.
It's reinforcing also to that idea that there's never a better time to get into the music industry.
Yes.
The barriers I feel like the barriers are fucking never been lower, Once again, I wasn't alive 60 or 70 years ago, but it seemed like it was a lot of chance and a lot of money,
The barrier for entry is certainly, financially speaking, lower than ever. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I did notice is that, and that I think these companies could do a better job of, is that personalization, curation, where like, give me the things I want. Let me pick 30 plugins that I actually want and I know I'm going to use, and it's this much a month, and I can swap them out maybe every month or every 3 months for the new ones that I want or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to pay for, I don't know, some EQ I'm never going to touch, I should be able to pay less because I'm, only using the things I want to use. So
that is very interesting.
that would be a cool thing to
wonder,
see happen.
With questionnaires, when you sign up, sometimes I've bought things or signed up to websites like Waves. I don't know if Waves does this, and they give you questionnaires asking what type of music you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's where things are going to head. Like you pay a really small amount, but maybe you have to pay for like 2 years and something. And maybe it's like, yeah, you get Waves, you get the SSL collection, but you're going to pay like $2 a month, but it's for the next 2 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can choose to renew
Pick and
it,
choose. Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That would make a lot of sense to me if that's the direction it went in.
You have done your job, sir, in presentation
Yeah.
sort of format. Just because I literally came into this, and my opinion of subscriptions was they're just sort of like a way to trick people who don't have money. And generally you shouldn't screw around with them. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case.
I mean, I think you have to be wary, like anything. You have to be careful with your money and what you're promising, what promises you're making to these companies, because they're not going to give you a break. If you say you're doing a year of something, you're paying for that and you're going to do it. So you do have to, manage your compulsive want to buy things as much as you can. But I think I do sort of think after doing this that the subscription model will ultimately be better for business and for consumer. As it gets more and more refined and, the experiences become more and more personalized. I think it will be ultimately, a good thing. But this is where we're at right now, and this is what I've discovered.
There you go.
So I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Do you have any other points you want to hit?
Yeah. I just want to say you fucking did a great job, and I like this format, of occasionally having like sort of quote unquote presentation.
Nice.
And having a theme as opposed to like, let's talk about these top 5 things. It's like, let's actually make a nice little presentation of that. So I think people should expect more of these in the future. Demand more of these in the future.
Well, let us know what you think, folks. I mean, drop a comment or a message to us. And if you did like the formatting of this episode and the subject matter, if you have suggestions for other subjects or formats, definitely let us know. You can reach the podcast at musicguypodcast@gmail.com or on our Instagram page or Facebook page or YouTube channel, or you could be watching this right now as it's being recorded. You can find me on social media at AlRoMusic. You can find Michael Hebbs at Bruno the Meek on Instagram. And if you want to support the show, you can tell your friends about it, share this episode, write a comment, reach out to us, send us a song of the week, which we're about to get to right now, or any of those good things. Send us some questions, maybe. These are all good things.
There you go.
Yeah. And please correct me on any of this stuff or chime in if you have any experience with any of these month-to-month plans or any different ones that we didn't mention, or if I got the prices wrong or the services wrong, please let us know.
There you go.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this one. And thanks so much for listening. As always, we will see you next week. Bye for now.